Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. In this video, we're gonna go ahead and create a contact list together. However, this time, we're going to use an API in order to pull some data from a server, okay? But don't worry, I'm gonna make it so simple for you to understand. So first of all, let's go ahead and open up Figma. And here I've just created a new project called Contact App, okay? It's gonna have a single screen, so let's press A on our keyboard and I'm gonna insert a new artboard. Let's choose iPhone 11 Pro or X, pretty good, and let's call it Contact, fantastic. And in our contact list, we're going to have some cards, okay, which holds the information of our contacts. So let's suppose that we are going to put the name and surname and also the email address of our users, okay? So first of all, we need to create a card. I'm gonna go ahead and choose the rectangle from the toolbar and let's drag and drop like this. Fantastic. I'm gonna align it to the center horizontally. And as you can see, the right and left paddings are set to 24 pixels, which is fine. I'm gonna change the height to 80. Fantastic. And then let's increase the radius to 10 like this. And I'm gonna set the color to white. Pretty good. As you can see, it's invisible because we don't have any shadows. So I'm gonna add effects and let's set it to drop shadow. And I'm gonna set the blur amount to 20 and the Y amount to 10. Pretty good. And let's decrease the opacity to 10% or even less. Let's set it to 5%. It's pretty good. You can also add stroke to it. So I'm gonna add stroke and let's decrease its thickness to 0.5. Pretty good. You can change its color to whatever you want, but for now, it's amazing. Now we need two text layers. The first one for our first and last name, and the second one for our email address. So I'm gonna press T on my keyboard. Let's click on here. Let's write first and last name. Let's decrease the font size to 18 points. Fantastic. I'm gonna move it to the left side. Its left and top paddings are going to be 16 pixels like this. And let me change the weight to medium. I'm gonna duplicate it, move it down, and the padding between them is going to be 6 pixels. I think it's fine. And now let's change the weight to regular. And here let's write email. However, keep in mind that we have no information about the length of our first and last name and also the email address. So let's increase the width of our text layers like this. Fantastic. And this one as well. Pretty good. All right, everything is fine. Now let's select all these layers and right click on one of these layers and choose frame selection. As I've mentioned before, you need to structure your app in a way that Bravo can understand easily, okay? So this card is a container. I'm gonna change its name to list and in brackets, let's write container. And we are basically done. However, one more important thing. As you can see, the frame that we just created is not touching any of these edges of our artboard. And this is a problem because Bravo can recognize a container whenever at least one of the edges of each frame touches the artboard, okay? So here we can easily fix this problem by increasing the width of this frame. So I'm gonna increase it like this. Fantastic. And then I'm gonna show you a good trick. Let's select all our elements by holding Shift on our keyboard, group them by pressing Command G if you're using Mac or Control G if you're using Windows. And here we have a group. Now let's align it to the center horizontally. And one more important point you need to keep in mind. Bravo doesn't let you add paddings to your elements in Bravo Studio. So you need to predict your padding in advance. For instance, here, suppose that we start duplicating this card, okay? Because we don't have any padding, it's gonna look like this, okay? Which is not what we want. So we need to add some paddings to it in order to make it clearer. So let's increase the height of our container as well, like this. I think it's great. Alright, that's all for now. Let's go ahead and get the link. I'm gonna copy it. I'm gonna go to Bravo Studio, import from Figma. I'm gonna paste it here, import it, and there we go. Now our design is connected to Bravo Studio, but it doesn't do anything. How can we add some functionalities to it? As I've mentioned before, in this project, we are going to use some APIs. What is an API? API stands for Application Programming Interface. Some of you may have no idea what it is. So let me explain it to you in simple words. Suppose that you are in a restaurant and you want to order something to eat. When you order, your order should be transferred to the kitchen, right? So the person who transfers your order to the kitchen is called an API or a waiter in a restaurant. So an API is basically a messenger that is going to send a request to the server and then takes the response to you as well. Alright, that's enough for theory, so now let's get into it. What I want you to do is opening up Google and look for JSON placeholder and click on the first link. There we go. This website provides us with different public APIs. Actually, we have different kinds of APIs. For instance, we have public or private APIs. But for you as a designer, it's not important to dive into the technical points. However, you should know that with the help of an API, you can receive some data from a server remotely, okay? Right over there under the resources section, you can see that we have different resources such as posts, comments, albums, photos, to-dos, users, and these are the numbers of responses. Okay, for this project we are going to use the last one, which is called users. So let's open it up. All right, there we go. As you can see here, we have some text which is structured weirdly. For those of you who don't know what this structure is called, I'd like to say that it's called JSON. Okay, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and it helps us to structure data in a clear way, and it also helps us to retrieve and read data easily. Okay, so as you can see here, we have ID, name, username, email, address, and under address we have street, suite, city, zip code, etc. So what I'm gonna do is selecting this link, let's copy it and go back to Bravo Studio, and this time instead of going to project section, I'm gonna go to the data library. So let's choose that. As you can see, I've already added some data collections for testing stuff. So click on new collection and let's name it contact app. The description doesn't matter, contact app as well. Let's save, and there we go. Here you can create a request. As I've explained to you before, we will send a request in order to get some responses. So let's click on this blue icon. There we go. And you can change the name of your request here. So I'm gonna rename it to contact list. Fantastic. I'm gonna remove this URL and let's paste the URL that we just copied from the JSON placeholder website. And because this is a public API, we don't have to provide Bravo Studio with any password or let's say key, okay? So we can just simply go ahead and click on send. All right, and now as you can see, we've got some responses here. It seems complex, I know, but believe me, it's so simple. So as you can see, we have data ID, data name, username, email, address, and all those things that we've just seen. For instance, as you can see, we've got ID1, name, and here you can see the name of ID1 as this one. Because of the fact that we are retrieving all 10 records, as you can see here, we've got 10 different IDs, we need to select all from this drop menu. So I'm gonna select all and let's check this checkbox. Then we need to select name and also the email address. And that's all. So what else should we do? The last thing we need to do is to bind our retrieved data to our design. So let's go to projects, and here we have the contact app. I'm gonna click on this contact screen, and here we have two drop menus, collections and requests. So from collections, let's choose the contact app that we just created. And from requests, we have only one. Let's choose the contact list. Pretty good. And I'm gonna click on the add content button. Fantastic. The first thing we need to add is the list. As you can see, it's indicated that this is a frame. And if you remember, we've created a frame here. So I'm gonna click on that, then click anywhere outside of this window. Fantastic. And from this drop menu, I'm gonna bind this list to data. And if you wait a second, you can see that a plus icon appears immediately. So I'm gonna click on that. And now we need to add first and last name and the email address. And as you can see, the email is automatically connected to email, and we need to change the first and last name to name. And that's all. So now if we preview our app, you can see that we don't have so much white space at the top. So how can we fix that? Let's go to Figma's project, and here at the top, I'm gonna create another container which is invisible. So let's create a rectangle like this. I'm gonna move this container down, and let's increase its height to something like this. And remember, when you're working with Bravo, your frames should not overlap each other, okay? So make sure that they are aligned perfectly like this. And I think it's a good idea to add a little bit of top padding to our container. So I'm gonna choose this group, move it down, and remember to ungroup it. Okay, like this. And let's change the color of this container. I'm gonna set it to white since we want it to be invisible. And now let's right click on that and choose frame selection to create another frame. And I'm gonna rename it to top frame. And in brackets, let's write container. Fantastic. Now let's go to Bravo Studio, and in order to update your app, you should always click on update. Pretty good. And now if you preview your app, you can see that we have a negative space at the top, which is exactly what we wanted. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. So see you then.